Everyone, welcome back to another MG Lifestyle Solutions lifestyle review video. And today I'm going to be comparing physical therapy and personal training as a career choice. So if you're someone that is in college or high school and you're just thinking of a career path for your future, hopefully this video will be useful. I'm going to be talking about more of the numbers, the financial components behind it, stability, and overall potential for growth, and things that you just need to consider before you make a choice one way or the other, or maybe neither. So check it out. Let's jump in and see what I got. All right, let me first start by introducing myself and giving you a little background on myself. So my name is Ilya Gluskin. I'm a doctor of physical therapy and personal trainer, fitness coach, nutrition coach, all that jazz. So I've been in the health and wellness industry since about 2009, starting off as a personal trainer and then eventually going back to graduate school and getting my doctorate in physical therapy. And I've been practicing since I think 2014, I believe, and I've been doing both ever since. So I feel like I have good background in both and have some financial experience in both that I'll share, and just also share the overall averages that I found online that I think the majority of people out there might be able to relate to a little better than just the Northeast in terms of where I live. So, regions are going to dictate salary and rates and all that jazz. So we got to look at averages, even if you might be in New York City or LA or Boston. That might vary versus if you're in the center of the country where rates might be less, maybe not. So a lot of things to consider, and I'll cover all that in this video. In terms of settings, for physical therapy, I've always been in an outpatient orthopedic setting. And then with personal training, I've done everything from your kind of bigger box Globo gyms as a trainer, to your private studios, and then now just running my own solo operation. So I've kind of dabbled in all of that, and I think I got some useful information for you. All right, so to become a physical therapist, we got to go to 4 years of undergrad and then 3 years of your DPT program. In some cases, there are programs that are just 6 years through, where your first year of grad is actually your senior year of undergrad, and it just kind of transitions in. But my understanding is that those programs are being kind of pushed out, and the more traditional 4-year undergrad followed by your 3-year doctorate program they're trying to make that the norm again, I believe, but not 100% sure on that. And I think there's some pros and cons to that, and that may be for a whole nother video. But just again, you got to look at the program, see how much time is required, and then the financial component to that. So in 2020, there was a survey done by the APTA that showed that the average debt from a DPT program was $110,000. Okay, in addition to an average of about $30K bachelor degree debt that people acquire. So when you take those two and you combine it, you got $140,000 in debt plus interest over 10-20 years or so, and that's typically around 7%, give or take. I mean, yeah, you can consolidate eventually, but the rates are high, I think, still for that, at least when I was. So again, I'm kind of speaking back with my experience with that. I haven't looked into today's rates exactly, but still, so you got to consider that. And then looking at your average salary. So I got a bunch of different numbers and a lot of ranges here. So from salary.com, it says 76 to 100K, and then we got 67 to 120K, and then 61 to 84K from salary.com, ZipRecruiter, and PayScale. And then from Student Loan Planner, average salary of 89K or 43 an hour. So again, very different ranges. It didn't really give me much more detail than that. And then, so how does that compare to personal training? We got averages that are lower for sure. There's a much bigger range, I would say. So as low as 14K a year to 64. Oh, sorry, that's an hour. So 14 an hour to 64 an hour. And then, roughly about 30K all the way up to almost 100K a year. So very much bigger range, a lot more variability, and maybe even potential when you look at that. And then taking a step back, if you look at the educational component, maybe you got that 4-year degree, so you got 30K, maybe you didn't, right? Maybe you're starting from zero debt and you're getting your certification, which is minimal. We're talking a couple $100, some continuing ed yearly, so significantly less financial initial commitment to just become a personal trainer. So that being said, does that mean you shouldn't become a physical therapist and just be a personal trainer? No, not necessarily. But again, things that you need to consider, calculate, see what your situation is. Are you taking out student loans? Some people are fortunate enough that they don't have to. So in that case, yeah, great, go for it. That's awesome. But so other things to consider in terms of financial components is, the setting that you're willing to work in. The salary here that I looked at for physical therapy was not specific to outpatient. It was just the average for the profession. So there's a lot of variability in terms of the setting you're in. So outpatient versus hospital versus acute versus specialty clinics, whatever. Location, certain locations, states are going to pay more for different reasons. One reason is their reimbursement rate. So are they a state that gets a lot more per visit from the insurance company? So if they're pulling in more money, they have more money to give back to the employees and whatnot, right? Is it a big hospital organization, big medical organization, or is it a smaller 1 or 2 shop kind of operation? So those are all different things to consider when it comes to benefits and salary and kind of your negotiation ability, knowing what type of place you're going into and what their potential earnings are. Obviously, if their potential is a lot higher, then you should be comfortably asking for more because they should have some more wiggle room, hopefully. And then like nonprofits, military service, or underserviced areas, there are definitely benefits in terms of getting your loan paid for or forgiven. I know if you work for a nonprofit, there are some great kind of loan forgiveness programs out there. And as well, obviously military, they'll pay a certain amount of your loan depending on the contracts and whatnot. I don't know the specifics there, but it's definitely an option. And then just like looking at the state that you live in and the cost of living and how everything else relates to how much you're making and how much it matters versus how much you need to be spending on rent and food and all that stuff that goes into being an adult, right? Okay, so I want to talk about personal training on its own a little bit. So in terms of the potential income and profitability of training, I think there's a lot of variability, and I think it's kind of an endless ceiling in a way, to a degree, obviously. But so things to consider when you're working at a more of a Globo Gym type of facility. They might require you to work X amount of hours at a fairly low rate, maybe minimum wage, where you're not necessarily training. You might be doing some floor hours, cleaning, just general gym upkeep, if you will. And it is a way to almost sell yourself and potentially look for clients in the gym, get to know people in the gym, the regulars, things like that. Get yourself out there, visible. And I think, that is a way to get clients, right? maybe a little bit more of an old school way now with social media and all these different platforms and ability to reach people in a different way, but still, that's, sometimes old school is effective as well. So in that case, you're making X amount of dollars per hour doing floor time, and then mixing in X amount of hours training. And then big thing to consider is the split. So, typically with the bigger box type of gyms, the percentage that you're getting might only be like 30%, 20, it's not going to be the majority of whatever the rate is, even if the package is quite expensive that the client is buying. The big gym name is getting a majority of that typically. Then, when you go into studios, and obviously when you work for yourself, that split starts to change in your favor. And some of it is what you negotiate. When it's a bigger name, it's harder to negotiate. They kind of have their standards. If it's a studio or a smaller gym, you can definitely negotiate, and it depends on who's bringing in the clients, right? If it's your client that you got independently, through social media or a friend or whatever, then yeah, hopefully you're getting the majority of that cut, and not the other way around, right? So if the gym is providing you all the clients and you're just training them and you don't have to do the legwork of acquiring new clients, then yeah, you're gonna make less of a cut, and that makes sense, right? So things like that, really important to consider. And then, all the way to when you are maybe your solo operation, what does that look like? How much overhead do you have? You got to cover cost, insurance, electricity. Depending on how you're structuring it. Like, are you renting space from someone, or are you getting your own space, buying equipment, doing the whole 9 yards with that? Obviously, a lot more to take on in that type of setting. But again, that's, if you really build a name for yourself, there's online coaching, there's, obviously if you get in any kind of niche where you have high-end clients or athletes, so it's so many options out there. It really is dependent on you and how you kind of sell yourself apart from the rest of the pack of trainers. I personally decided to do that through physical therapy and kind of taking the injury prevention approach and versus anything else. But there's a lot of different ways that you can do it. So hopefully these things are something that you are thinking about, and if you're not, now you will. So as a physical therapist, there are also some variabilities in terms of salary. Obviously the typical are, the setting, location, geographic location, but the other factor is, you have the option of going into a cash-based practice, starting your own cash-based practice, kind of making it a little bit more similar to personal training if you have your own studio, and you can set your own rates, structure it however you want, and it's endless. I've heard of some people charging $300-400 an hour because they have a specialty in treating back pain, right? So just a lot of it also goes to how you market yourself and how you're perceived in your environment and community, right? So some variability there, but I think that is a little bit out of the norm, but anything's possible. It's just how you apply it. All right, so next I want to go over a 10-year kind of perspective of comparing DPT and PT, and again, kind of financially what that looks like with some really rough numbers, keeping things constant, and not necessarily a super realistic comparison, but again, just some easy math for a little visual component to everything I'm kind of talking about. So I'm going to try to hopefully get this screen on the video as well, just for a little extra visual. So we're going to use the 89K average for DPT and 62K average for personal training, okay? So over a 10-year period, say so this is considering you go to undergrad, so you're going to be roughly 21, And then, so we'll look at 31 down here after 10 years, okay? And so we're gonna use the average, so from 0 to 3, oh, hold on, so back here, okay. So we're starting off in negative 30K because we're assuming we went to undergrad. That's the average debt that I basically talked about before. So now in the DPT, we got to go to grad school. So from year 0 to 3, so at 21, let's say, we're going to go another negative 110 for grad school. And 0 to 3 here, not going to grad school as a PT, as a personal trainer, and you're going to be making 62 a year. So we're going to get plus 186K. Whereas with the DPT, we just took out 110K in loans. Okay. And then we're going to go, so from 3 to 10, we're going to earn 623,000. And then from 3 to 10 as a personal trainer, we're going to go 434,000. And then you combine those for the personal trainer, we got 620. Over here, we got to subtract that, and we got, I used 183, okay? And then also, to become a personal trainer, you don't need to go to grad school or to undergrad, so we can get rid of that 30 and add it on to here. So we got 650 versus 483. Okay, so pretty big difference there. Again, is this super realistic? Maybe not, right? There's no changes over that 10 years. It's really unlikely for things to be constant for the whole 10-year period like that. But I figured just to make things simple and not overcomplicate things, I think this is an easy way to look at it. In fairness, I think the growth potential is probably higher as a personal trainer in terms of income and salary than as a physical therapist in a lot of cases. Other than if you open your own clinic and you're an owner, and that's a whole separate scenario, I would say. But in terms of just your average staff physical therapist type of situation, I feel like this is probably a fair comparison to make, okay? Now that being said, there's still a lot of other things that you need to consider, and that, biggest thing I would say is the consistency and job security. So personally, one of the main reasons why I chose to go into physical therapy is the job security component. As a personal trainer, your clients come and go, they go on vacation, some are seasonal, a lot more unpredictable events are going to occur as a personal trainer. And then, if that happens, or if you have seasonal clients, sometimes it can be hard to fill those voids, and now you're not making money if your clients aren't coming in and you're not training them, right? So with physical therapy, it's not so much of a long-term relationship with patients. And if you're in a good facility, good clinic, you're getting new patients consistently, and hopefully that fills your schedule and you're working your desired, full-time hours or whatever that may be. In terms of in the medical world, people are always going to be getting injured. I think there's always going to be a need for hands-on care in one way or another. So again, that's why I went with that route instead of just staying a trainer. Nothing wrong with that, but I just wanted a little bit more stability. And another component is you got to set yourself apart. So I think there's a ton of personal trainers out there, a lot of good ones, some not so good. Different backgrounds, different experiences, different niche, the word, that in terms of the type of clients they work with, whether it's you know, bodybuilding or just general health and wellness or something very specific. But yeah, so it was a way to set myself apart, right? So I have a doctorate in physical therapy. I know the body better, the anatomy, injury prevention, you know, making sure my clients don't get hurt, and if they do, whether it's with me or someone else or in their life, I know how to get them back to training and back to their functional capacity a little better. And you know, not to say that you can't be a good trainer and understand the body and know how it moves without being a physical therapist. That's definitely not true. But I figured it was just a good way to learn. Alright guys, that's our wrap for this video. Hope you found it useful. If you're someone that's looking to get into the physical therapy or personal training career, good luck. If you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment. Or if you have any ideas for future videos, let me know. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and I'll catch you guys next time. Thanks, bye.